Sony and Microsoft right now are engaging in a very different style of console war than anything that has existed before, because they're basically just trying to buy the biggest chunks of the gaming industry, scooping up every single studio, even if it doesn't technically have a price tag. But what's about to happen is where I feel like things are going to get much more complicated from a legal aspect, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Now, I'm recording this video just a couple hours after the news that Sony is buying Bungie for $3.6 billion. Just about 10 days ago, we had the news that obviously Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard for like $70 billion. Stuff is changing. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking specifically about certain studios that seem that they're very ripe to be purchased, like Konami or specifically Square Enix. Now, Square Enix is a very interesting one because they've already been working a lot exclusively with Sony, making stuff like Final Fantasy XVI only exists on the PlayStation console and also PC. Things like the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And even now there's future talks about some sort of possible like Final Fantasy Tactics game that could exist only on the PlayStation. Now this is interesting, but I feel like this is actually just parts of a bigger piece of the pie that I want to dissect. And part of the motivation of it is this tweet that just came out a bit ago, which is that Jim Ryan is very clearly saying that they're going to be buying more stuff very, very soon. You can expect more when it comes to further PlayStation acquisitions. They want to buy stuff up. Now, coming from the Microsoft camp, Jez Corden, this guy is one of the biggest leakers when it comes to Xbox news of any variety. He said, this year is going to be crazy for gaming acquisitions. Stuff is just beginning. Now, he is a big writer for Windows Central, so a lot of people basically are thinking that maybe this means that Microsoft is going to try and grab Square Enix first. Well, what a lot of people are forgetting is more of this bigger technical cloud that's hanging over a lot of these big business deals. There are certain studios that cannot legally be purchased by Microsoft or Sony. So we're going to have to get a bit into the nitty-gritty of a thing that's called anti-monopoly laws. Essentially, the way this works is that each government tries to make sure that somebody can't just come in and buy an entire industry. Think of it as like, if you're somebody like a humongous trillion-dollar cell phone company, you cannot legally just purchase all the other cell phone companies, because if you do this, you could make it where everybody's cell phone bill is $1,000 a month. There's no competition. There's no need to flourish. You could make everybody's internet service completely suck because nobody else can really beat you out. That means that when it comes to a lot of these acquisitions, there's certain stuff that cannot be purchased because it would be too big. And this actually exists even more so for Sony than it does for Microsoft. I've seen a lot of gamers online asking this question specifically, which is the fact that right now, despite the fact that there has been so many huge acquisitions, nobody's buying any Japanese studios. Like, nobody's decided to purchase Konami or Square or Sega to make Sonic like a console exclusive, or of course, nobody's even attempted to buy Nintendo. Now, why is that? And it's because of this. Brian Altano completely nailed it. Legally, it's difficult to purchase a Japanese company because if they could, they absolutely would try it. Essentially, Japan has extra strict monopoly laws. Nintendo probably cannot purchase Konami, even if they wanted to. Nintendo might not legally be able to purchase things like Square Enix, and that means even more so for Sony themselves. Now, this is not a price problem. A lot of people right now are posting memes like, oh man, Sony is so broke, or people posting stuff like showing like Microsoft having them walk around with a credit card just buying things up. This is not a matter of what is able to be bought, it's what legally is allowed to be bought. Think about this. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, a lot of these studios right now actually have trillions of dollars of raw assets. Like, if you actually consider the fact that really just sit here and brainstorm, how many hundreds of millions of consoles do they own? How many different big series and franchises do they own? Taking a second to put aside all the console war BS, because even if you particularly hate something like Sony or Microsoft, if you think the PlayStation sucks or it's the trash box one or whatever like that, you still have to logically realize that these systems are worth trillions of dollars collectively. And I think what's happening right now is that Sony is in a spot where they probably want to buy more, and they're trying to figure out how to do it. In fact, there's already been talks about the fact that this Bungie deal, which seems so instantaneous, has actually been in the talks for about 6 months. These are very slow-moving titans that are trying to scoop up things as carefully as possible. So even though I see right now that Square Enix is trending worldwide because people are trying to figure out who's going to actually buy Square Enix, I think that right now what's going to happen is probably Sony is going to try and make exclusivity contracts. To me, this seems to be the most logical course of action, is that right now, instead of trying to just buy all of Square Enix, they could make a deal that's just very, very lucrative exclusively for Sony. Like, something that Sony has done in the past is what they'll do is they come in with some PlayStation bucks and they say, all right, we will pay the development for this game, but it only exists on our system. So basically, the people who own a particular series, whether it is something like Silent Hill or Final Fantasy or whatever like that, they make it exclusively for their system. It's pure profit for them. It makes an easy selling point for Sony. It is win, win, win. And additionally, they don't have to deal with any of those stupid monopoly laws that usually blockade them from trying to make bigger deals in the future. I feel like this is what's probably going to happen, but Microsoft has a lot more freedom. Like, straight up, even if you think that this is kind of crazy to think about, Microsoft can actually just buy stuff in cash that nobody else can afford. Like, I don't like the idea of somebody buying Take-Two Interactive and making Grand Theft Auto a console exclusive, but if anybody's going to do it, I feel like it's probably going to be Microsoft. Microsoft is more able to just go in and dump in huge chunks of hundreds of billions of dollars that are liquid already and scoop up studios. Whereas Sony, they have to shift stuff around. They have to buy their time. They have to try and make sure that when they buy something, it's absolutely worth it. While it is theoretically possible to see Sony scoop up somebody like Sega to make exclusive Sonic games, or something like Capcom to keep Resident Evil only living on PlayStation systems, I sort of doubt that this might fully happen. But I want to end this video with just one last message here to sort of just sit in the back of your mind, which is basically this tweet by John Lineman. This is the dude over at Digital Foundry, sort of a tech genius that comes to frame rates and, resolution analysis. Well, he just said this: I can't help but feel a little bit worried about the state of the industry going forward. Obviously talking about video games as they currently exist. It feels like the TV film industry, with big players scrambling to buy everything for their respective subscription services. It's interesting, that's for sure, but man, I think that Bungie being acquired on its own is fine. Well, let's just wait for the siren to go past. I think Bungie being acquired on its own is fine, and I hope it allows them to make something new. I'm just not fond with the ripple effects and worry about more acquisitions happening. And I like this. I think you're just stuck in the past. Well, yes, I'm proudly stuck in the past. Subscription, streaming, and everything multiplayer, no thanks. This is the future that's probably about to exist, is this time where everybody's going to try and make something for their platform. And I do, most personally, I fear the rise of games as a service. The more I see these studios being bought up for billions of dollars, I don't feel like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they're not going to want these games that are one and done. They're not going to want to make the classic big AAA single-player experiences that a lot of us love. They're going to want persistent online worlds in the style of Fortnite, stuff that constantly makes money year-round. I think that's why they bought Bungie. Bungie makes a lot of money with Destiny 2, and Destiny 2 has microtransactions via the skins, the new raids, the guns, and stuff like that, and it makes it where people are always just wanting to log in to pay money to make sure they're participating in the universe of Bungie. Now, I just don't like the idea of that. I wish that things would stay at least sort of focused on power to the players, the highest value for your $60 game. But at this point, that idea is pretty much dead. What do you think about all this? Are you ready for the future? Are you excited for this Bungie acquisition? Are you excited for the idea that Square Enix may get purchased? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a giant thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. What a happy little mess. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.